Kabir says, if man continues to love the God to the end in the same way as he pledged in the beginning, millions of emeralds, to say nothing of the poor diamond, do not equal him. Kabir says, I saw a strange thing. A diamond was being sold at the shop. In the absence of a customer, it was going in exchange for a shell. Kabir says, where there is a divine knowledge, there is virtue, and where there is a falsehood, there is sin. Where there is a avarice, there is death, and where there is forgiveness, there is God Himself. Kabir says, of what avail is the abandonment of Maya if man does not abandon his pride? The sages and sublime saints are destroyed by ego. Egoism eats up all. Kabir says, the true Guru has met me, and he has aimed the arrow of God's name at me. As soon as it struck me, I fell on the ground with the hole made in my heart. Kabir says, what can the true Guru do when his disciples are at fault? Not even one word of the Guru is imbibed by the blind man. It is like blowing wind into a bamboo, producing no sound. Kabir says, a woman endowed with horses, elephants, and many chariots, and she be a king's wife, yet she will not be equal even to the female water carrier of a slave of God. Kabir says, why do you slander the bride of a king, and why honor the God's maid? Because the one arranges the parting of her hair for vice, while later contemplates the God's name. Kabir says, by obtaining the support of Lord's name, I have become in poise, and true Guru has blessed me with courage. Kabir says, I have purchased the jewel of the Lord's name on the bank of the Mansarovar lake. Kabir says, God is the jewel and God's slave the jeweler, who has taken jewel and has set up a shop. As soon as an assayar is found, just then the price of the jewels is obtained. Kabir says, just as you remember God when necessity arises, so should you remember Him always. Like this, you will abide in the immortal city, and God shall restore you the wealth that you had lost. Kabir says, for performing service, only two personalities are the best, one the saint and another the Lord. The Lord, who is the giver of salvation, and the saint who makes man utter the name. Kabir says, the path on which the Pandits went, crowds followed them. There is an arduous cliff on the way to the Lord. Kabir is scaling that cliff. Kabir says, man labors because of anxiety for his family, and thus dies of the worldly troubles. What will happen to the honor of his family when he is placed on the cremation ground? Kabir says, O wretched man, you shall be drowned by the undue regard for the opinion of many people. Know that the fate which has befallen your neighbor shall also come on you. Kabir says, good is the coarse bread made of various grains. I have no claim whatever on any one for it. Great is the country and great the empire where I can go for it. Kabir says, the heart burning arises by asserting claims. One without any claim remains carefree. The man who has no claim, he considers prince and pauper alike. Kabir says, the entire tank is filled to brim, but no one can drink water therefrom. By great good fortune, you have found it. Drink it in handful, O Kabir. Kabir says, as the stars disappear in the morning, so does this body disappears. But these two letters of the God do not disappear. To them, Kabir is holding fast. Kabir says, the house of wood is on fire on 10 sides. The learned Brahmins have been burnt to death, while the illiterate have fled to safety. Kabir says, cast off doubt and let go with the flood your paper knowledge. Imbibing the essence of the 52 letters, fix your mind on the God's feet. Kabir says, the saint does not leave his saintliness enough though he meets with millions of evil doers. The sandalwood, even when surrounded by snakes, does not leave its coolness. Kabir says, by obtaining the Lord's knowledge, my mind has become refreshed. The fire which has burnt the world, that fire is like water to the Lord's slave. Kabir says, the world is the play of the Creator Lord, but no one understands it. This either the master himself or one who is the slave at his court understands it. Kabir says, it is good that I feel my Lord's fear and have forgotten all other sides. The hailstone melted and turned into water and has joined the stream, so has Kabir melted and merged in Lord the ocean. Kabir says, by collecting dust, the Lord has made the body like a packet of it. It is but play of short period. Ultimately, the dust shall return to dust. Kabir says, all the bodies are like the rising and setting of sun and the moon, but without meeting the Guru, God, they all turn into dust again. Where there is a fear-free Lord, no fear is there. Where there is a fear, God is not there. Kabir says this after contemplation. Listen, saints, with concentration of mind. Kabir says, they who know nothing, they pass their time in peaceful sleep. I, who have understood the riddle, am face to face with the whole host of the troubles. Kabir says, the evil weep much, but different is the weeping of the devotees. When smitten with the stroke of God's love, Kabir fell on the spot. Kabir says, easy is the stroke of a lance. It draws out the breath as soon as it strikes. He who endures the stroke of the Guru's word, he is the Guru and I his slave. Kabir says, O Mullah, why do you ascend the minaret? The Lord is not deaf. Without your mind, search him, for whose sake you shout the prayer calls. Why should the Sheikh, who is not contented, go for the pilgrimage to Makkah? He whose heart is not whole, how can he attain God? Kabir, you perform the meditation of God, contemplating whom all the troubles depart. As the Lord becomes manifest in my heart, the burning fire is quenched. Kabir says, no use force is tyranny, though you call it lawful. When your account is called at the Lord's court, then what shall be your condition? Kabir says, excellent is the dinner of rice and pulse boiled together, in which there is delicious salt. Who will have his throat cut for meat with his bread? Kabir says, then alone the Guru is deemed to have touched the heart if man's worldly love and bodily ailments are effaced. Weal and woe does not burn him, and then he becomes God himself. Kabir says, there is a secret in worshipping Rama. Therein lies a point worthy of consideration. The same word all use for incarnation, Rama, which is also the name of divine doer of wonders. Kabir, him alone called Rama, who is omnipresent. We should discriminate between the two while mentioning them. One Rama, the God, is pervading amongst all, while the other Ram, Chandar, is contained in his self alone. Kabir says, the houses in which the holy are not served, nor God is contemplated, those houses are like the cremation ground, and demons live in them. Kabir says, I have become dumb, insane, and my ears are blocked. I have also become lame-footed, as the true Guru has pierced me with his arrow. Kabir says, as the heroic true Guru has shot an arrow at me, as soon as it struck me, I fell to the ground and hole was made in my heart. Kabir says, the immaculate drop from the sky has fallen on the filthy ground. Know you this, that without the holy association it becomes like the ashes of furnace. Kabir says, the pure raindrop from heaven mixes with the dust. Innumerable wise persons have striven and failed. It cannot be separated. Kabir says, I was going on a pilgrimage to the Makkah and God met me on the way. The Lord started quarreling with me. Say, who did tell you that I am at that place alone? Kabir says, I have often made pilgrimage to Kaaba, but how many times, O Kabir? O Lord, what fault is there in me that the Pir of Kaaba, Allah, do not speak with me? Kabir says, they who kill the beings by force and call that as righteous, when the Lord would take out the account at his court,